At this moment, Nick felt that things were not as simple as he thought. He decided to chat with the warden, but when he asked for the patient records on the warden rejected his request, challenging Nick's police authority. He declared on sight to strike and leave at dawn. Back in the dorm, Nick was still staring at that note, telling Arkin that he only mentioned leaving to spook them a bit. Nick felt everything happening was too coincidental. Something hidden lay behind. That night, Nick had a dream where his wife was in a room full of ashes, and as she approached the window, she was slowly getting burned to a crisp. He rushed to hug her, but she poofed into ashes, leaving Nick holding a bowl of water instead. Waking up from this nightmare, Nick noticed that the ceiling was leaking. The next day, he dived straight into the investigation, trying to squeeze some info. At first, Nick found nothing, but when a well-spoken patient appeared, his sharp instincts kicked in. She might have some answers, so he asked about Laura's doctor. What's the scoop on him? The woman thought for a moment and suddenly claimed she was thirsty. While Arkin went to fetch water, she quickly snatched Nick's note. She scribbled something down, and Nick quickly hid the notebook. Just when Arkin came back with water, something weird happened. The cup in her hand vanished while she was drinking, and when she set it down, it mysteriously reappeared. But no one noticed that. When they stepped out, Arkin recalled Nick mentioning a guy named Andrew several times in their earlier chat, so he asked who this. Nick pondered, then shared his story. He hadn't come for Andrew the handyman years ago, his wife had. The culprit of the fatal fire is him, explaining Nick's terrifying nightmare last night. After knowing this man was jailed for a grave error, he was sent to this isolated prison. So he invited Yin to investigate, but now Andrew has vanished from the prison. To verify if he's alive, the two ventured to the prison graveyard in heavy rain, but found no trace after searching. At this moment, Arkin recalled the thirsty female prisoner and questioned Nick if she had spoken during his water run. Nick came clean. He pulled out the notebook and revealed that the woman had written run. Clearly, she knew the island's secret. At this point, they didn't have time to think because a storm was raging on the island. They had to dash into a nearby building to take cover, feeling completely overwhelmed by the flood of information. Finally, Nick said he didn't come to kill Andrew, he was a WW2 soldier. Having witnessed countless innocent lives lost during the war, he utterly despised killing after it ended. The reason he came here was because Headlong suspected that someone on this little island was conducting brain experiments on humans. This suspicion arose after he investigated a college student named George. George came here to make some quick cash and volunteered to be a human guinea pig for brain experiments, but not long after, he completely snapped, almost killing his professor. Eventually, he was imprisoned in the dangerous cell block 3. Released a year later, he killed 3 strangers in a bar. He begged for death to avoid returning to prison, yet the judge sentenced him to life on this hellish island. When Nick found him, George was fully conscious and told Nick the doctors were using him for experiments. Nick aimed to expose the crimes here. Arkin, hearing all this, felt something was off from the get-go. Maybe they walked right into the warden's trap. How could Laura disappear barefoot in such a secure prison? Perhaps Laura never existed, and Nick was just probing prison matters. So Laura was just a girl used to trick them. As Nick was about to refute Arkin, the door suddenly opened behind them. The warden had arrived. The two could only swallow their claims and follow the warden back to the prison. After washing up, there were no clothes for them, so they had to put on prison scrubs. The warden then called a meeting. The sudden storm might impact the prison security, affecting the 42 inmates in blocks 1 and 2, plus the 24 dangerous inmates in block 3 who might even attempt the breakout. They decided to lock down all the volatile prisoners in block 3, at which point Nick observed. According to the warden, only 66 patients were on the island, but Nick remembered the 67th inmate on paper and questioned the warden. The warden insisted no such person existed. Nick suspected the warden had tucked away the 67th inmate, but the warden ignored Nick and instead brought good news: Laura had been found. Sure enough, when Laura appeared, she was shoeless. He asked cautiously where Laura went. Laura said she took her kids to school, then to the river behind the house, getting emotional. She imagined Nick as her husband, then snapped back, screaming who he was and where her husband was. Then the warden informed Nick that they found Laura skipping stones by the lighthouse, and he had no clue how she had escaped. Just then, Nick's headache came back, likely due to his sleepless night, and the warden, being the tough guy, brought in a water jar and some meds, though Nick was skeptical. Without much thought, Nick quickly took the medicine and was sent to a ward to rest. Drowsy, he dreamt of his wife again. When he awakened again, he found the sick bay in chaos. It turned out that the wind last night had been so powerful that it caused the whole system to When they stepped out, chaos reigned outside. They conspired to sneak into Block 3, entering cautiously. Halfway through, they encountered a guard who quickly noticed they didn't belong in Block 3. He warned them to be cautious of any escapees from cell Block 3, saying they were extremely dangerous. Just as they stepped through, a bald prisoner suddenly burst out. Nick chased him, unfamiliar with the prison, while looking for the bald man. He got caught by the bald guy from behind. Nick, being the trained soldier he was, quickly subdued the guy, and the guard heard the ruckus. He asked Arking nearby to help move the inmate away, refusing Nick's aid. Alone, Nick took the chance to reach the prison's upper levels.